Welcome to Menopause Reimagined. Today I am speaking to an old friend who has a new purpose. And before I bring her in, I'm going to do a quick intro to who I am. My name is Andrea Donsky. I'm a nutritionist for more than 20 years. I'm a menopause educator, published menopause researcher, and the co-founder of wearemorphus.com, a company that helps to empower you through perimenopause and menopause with nutrition, lifestyle, supplements, and research. And talking about research, we now have 14 surveys on our website, and I am going to be adding a new one very soon. So I'm excited to continue to bring you this incredible research on perimenopause and menopause. So if you haven't filled them out, please go to our website, wearemorphus.com, and go to the research tab at the top and fill out the surveys that you haven't filled out already. And one of them is actually for your partners. So we are looking at men's perspective on menopause. So please have your partner fill that one out as well. Today I'm speaking with Mareya Ibrahim-Jones, otherwise known as Chef Mareya. The Fit Foodie is a chef, holistic nutritionist, brain health coach, author, and award-winning inventor who thrives on helping midlife women live a purpose-filled life in their best shape. As a 30-plus year health and wellness industry expert, she's the host of the Real Dish podcast, the author of the #1 release book, Eat Like You Give a Fork, The Real Dish on Eating to Thrive, and is the creator of Fit and Fab Over 40, Meal Prep Club, and Eat to Thrive programs. She was also the signature chef to the New York Times multi-million copy bestseller, The Daniel Plan, 40 Days to a Healthier Life. Her column, The Fit Foodie, has appeared in Edible Orange County magazine since 2011. And Mareya has contributed to dozens of media outlets, including Oprah.com, and has been featured on The Doctors, HSN, QVC, The Food Network, Live Strong, and 3 seasons of the Emmy-nominated cooking show Recipe Rehab. She's also an amateur bodybuilder, wife, mother of 5, and Live On Labs brand advocate. Now, here's Chef Mareya. Welcome to Menopause Reimagined, Mareya.
So nice to be with you today. I love it.
I love it too. And for those of you who are listening, I have known Mareya for a very long time. I mean, you were really, I remember you were so kind to me. This was years ago when, I had Naturally Savvy at the time, and then we reconnected through Morphus, and you were helping us with some distribution channels, and you were always so kind to me. And I am very grateful to you, because any woman that is so generous to help other women is a woman, a special place. I have a special place in my heart for that. So thank
That
you
means
so
a
much.
lot to me because I feel the same way. I feel like, we need to lift each other up, and women supporting women is it's a great place to be and to conduct your business. So thank you for saying that.
Oh, my pleasure. So I've been looking at your Instagram, and you are impressive. I mean, can you talk about your journey about bodybuilding? I mean, you're in your 50s, and I know that you have really taken charge of your health and your menopause, let's say. And I thought it would be really cool for you to share your story because it's super inspirational.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you'll recall, I created a product line called Eat Cleaner.
Remember?
Sold the company 2 years ago, and on that 13-year journey, had a lot of really cool opportunities, wrote some books and worked with the Daniel Plan as one of their signature chefs, and was on a show called Recipe Rehab. And I was just like grinding, I was a single mom for 13 years, also a big part of that time. And all of a sudden, 2020 hit, and I felt like I ran into a brick wall. Everything that I was doing for some reason was not working anymore. And here I was, I mean, I've been talking about nutrition like and I've been a clean eating chef for a really long time. And all of a sudden, all these things that I was doing wasn't working anymore. And, when I think about it, that was just 5 years ago. That wasn't a really long time ago, but I feel like the discussions around menopause and the midlife changes are really just kind of getting louder now. But then, I went to my doctor, and she was just like, you're going through it. You'll just have to go through it, and we'll see, kind of like, we'll see what happens on the other side. And I was like, what? Like, I can't survive like this. So it just was the beginning of my real journey of trying to figure out what would work for me. And that's what led me to bodybuilding ultimately. And it wasn't immediate, but my body was changing. I've never really had major struggles with my weight or, managing like just my physique. But it seemed that overnight I got a nice little, tire around
Ouch.
my waistline, the menopause, and I couldn't manage like anything. I had a lot of brain fog and just so many things. So that's really what set me on my journey.
Hmm. And so what made you decide to look at your fitness aspect? So yeah, so you were a chef for a long time, and that's kind of how I think our paths had crossed. But what led you to go into that whole fitness realm?
So, when you're somebody that is in the public eye talking about wellness and cooking and food and how it relates to your physical and mental well-being, but you're not feeling good, I felt like it was an imposter syndrome situation. I was like, well, I'm telling people to do all these things, but I don't feel good. And part of that was my physical, again, I've always been active. I was an athlete when I was younger. I played club soccer, I raced bikes. I've always been like that active girl.
Mm.
And I've never really had any issues physically. Like as long as I ate well and exercised, like I could keep my body in check. But I was really noticing this midsection was really bugging me. And I was also noticing that I really didn't have a lot of muscle mass. Like I would look in the mirror and I looked like just kind of skinny fat, like bulgy belly and no real muscle tone. And again, it wasn't like I wasn't being active, but it felt like my body changed literally overnight. It's really strange. But I felt fluffy and I didn't like it. So I started to look at what I was doing for exercise and how I was eating. And what I realized is that in midlife, holding on to muscle becomes a lot more challenging. And I hadn't really been working out in a way to build muscle. I was working out to burn fat. And there's a big difference. So I started to change, how I ate, prioritizing protein, eating, I've always eaten like smaller portions, but I would say I've been more of an intuitive eater versus like somebody who's been disciplined in getting the right macronutrients in. So I changed my approach to be more macronutrient focused and started lifting weights and was like, something turned on, like the switch flipped. And I started feeling better. The brain fog lifted. I started having way more energy. Like I could barely drag myself out of bed. It was like my hormones just flipped upside down. And when I started lifting weights and eating more macronutrient focused, everything flipped back again. And I was like, I never want to go back to how I was feeling before. This feels too good. And so I haven't looked back.
It's funny because I've talked a lot about on our podcast how when we were growing up, at least as, for me as a Gen Xer, I was always working out, doing tons of cardio. I never wanted to pick up a weight because I didn't want to look big and bulky, right? And we
Yeah.
always, and for me, and I remember distinctly, like I was 16, 17, 18, my teen years, and I'm like, oh, I'm never going to, I don't want to look, like the Hulk. And now that I'm in menopause, I'm like, oh, I really want to get those muscles, right? I'm like, it was like all such a myth back then, right? So, but you have been able to achieve getting that really cut. Obviously, you're in a different bracket in terms of the training that you're doing. But how are you able to get that look? Like, did you have to, like, were you taking like testosterone or were you doing eating? Like, obviously, you're looking at your macros. Like, maybe you can go into a little bit more detail about that. Obviously, the protein is important. But like,
No.
and is that something that you can sustain, or was that more because you were actually competing? Like, explain, I guess the difference for me is when you're in competitive mode versus you're in just everyday living mode. Like, how does it differ for
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. So, number one, I don't take any hormones at all. I mean, I'm not even on HRT. I'm not saying that that's not a good thing. It's just not a choice that I've made at this time in my life. It may change, but I don't take any hormones at all. Um, for Okay, so you're right. There are two different looks at wellness in midlife. You know, you don't have to be a bodybuilder to build muscle.
Right.
And I think that's a really important thing for women to grasp, because bodybuilding is a build and cut discipline. So you bulk and then you cut. But building muscle doesn't have to be that kind of building and cutting. It can literally just be building and maintaining, right? So we build and bulk, and then there's a season for preparing for a competition, which is usually somewhere in the realm of like 14 to 20 weeks. You know, for some people, they like to do it gradually, some like to do it in a shorter period of time. But the building muscle part is the same for everybody. And it is absolutely mostly diet. You have to eat enough calories and the right type of calories to actually build muscle mass. So we are after that, that lean protein, or, you know, I mean, for some, it's different for everybody depending on what your goals are, but you want lean protein to build lean muscle. And that's really kind of it, you know. You know, for me, I'm all of 5 feet tall. So my macronutrient needs will be different from somebody who's, you know, 5 or 10 inches taller than me. And it varies for your activity level, and there are a lot of different inputs there. But the bottom line is it's mostly, I'm going to say 85% diet.
Hmm.
And
And
then the
then
rest is resistance training,
I was going to
you
say
know?
discipline in the gym and and the training. Exactly.
Yeah, and I still do cardio, but the way I do cardio is different. I do high intensity, and I'll do it for like 10 to 15 minutes a few times a week, and that's it. You
Hmm.
know, I'm not doing these hour-long classes where it's all about, you know, zone 2 training. Like that's really, or zone 3, like getting your heart rate really high and keeping it there for a while. Like those days are over.
Hmm.
For me, it's really more about like getting your heart rate elevated for a brief period of time, and then, you know, walking. When I'm in preparation mode for the stage, my cardio looks different, but for everyday maintenance, it's in the gym, lifting heavy weights to failure, you know, all about getting the max reps out of your sets. And then, you know, it's food. Got to make sure you're getting enough food.
So for the women who are listening and are saying maybe they don't want to compete, but they just to getting to the gym. Like I know since I've been lifting weights, and it's been now I've been pretty consistent now for the last couple of years. I feel so good. I love feeling strong. And and as much as I try, like I'm getting like a little bit of definition I could see, and I'm like always flexing it. I like to play around like with my sister
Yeah.
and I, because she's also doing weights. So I'm like, look, we have some muscle. But to get to a point where you are so cut and your muscle, like to me, it looks beautiful. Like I just love a very strong woman. So did you go to a trainer? Like what made you decide to be like, okay, I'm going to take this to the next level?
Yeah. I had wanted to do a competition in my early 40s, and I was going to train for one. And then I kind of just talked myself out of it. You know, I was like, I'm too busy. I'm a single mom. Like, I just need to focus on them and my business right now, because it does take quite a bit of preparation, especially the food part. I mean, the food part is the most intense part of training for a competition, because you're eating 5 to 6 times a day, and you're eating kind of specifically for the competition, you know, cut. So it looks different than just building muscle. I think it's a little more forgiving when you are just trying to put more muscle on your body. You know, it ends up being more about like, am I getting enough of the protein and the carbs and the fat in a day? And am I lifting and making my lifts really productive? You know, I see a lot of people get intimidated in the gym. I definitely started with a trainer. And then after about, I'm going to say 2 months of working with a trainer, I became more confident in knowing what to do and then really learned from other people, you know, working out with other people, even working out with my son. My son's really, really good in the gym
That's fun.
and
Yeah,
he would
that's fun.
help correct me and stuff. But I think, you know, it's a mind shift, especially for us Gen Xers. It's a mind shift
Mm.
change. We're not about just going to burn calories or, you know, oh, I ate a cookie, so I'm going to go burn it off. Like, we know that food is information. And once it's been metabolized, it's part of you. But I also want you to know you can eat the cookie. You should eat the cookie. You know, we don't want to beat ourselves up. And I wrote a book called Eat Like You Give a Fork.
Yeah,
And it
so cute.
really is all about like the 90-10 rule in dieting. You know, eat well 90% of the time, but 10% of the time, you absolutely should indulge because, you know, we are
Mhm.
human and that metabolic elasticity is important. You know, some days we should be eating more calories and some days we eat less. So I just encourage people to never feel like restriction all the time is the way. But when it comes to training, we look at training differently in midlife because our goal is different. Our goal is to build muscle. And if you're not getting enough calories, and you're not getting enough protein, it will be very hard to build muscle.
And I have a saying that it's nutrition, it's eating isn't about deprivation, but rather education. And that's where it comes to making up our own mind. So I always say 80-20, you say 90-10, whatever that is, it's we don't want to deprive ourselves because it just backfires. And especially as Gen Xers, I mean, I can speak personally for me, it backfires. So
I'm
like,
going to tell you, I believe in the 80-20 rule more now than I did 10 years ago. I
yeah,
think,
yes.
yeah, I think even more now, like, and this is real talk here as we speak. I'm in Spain. And yesterday I was at a festival and I had an ice cream and I felt really good about it.
Well, it's funny because I am so much less rigid now about things than I was also like 10 years ago. Like I am doing things, eating things that I would be like, not, I wouldn't have done so much long, yeah, like 10 years ago, right? Even when I had my other company. And now I'm like, yes, it's about enjoyment, or it's like, okay, I'm going to decide to eat this. I know I might get a hot flash from it, but I've made the decision because it's going to make me happy and I'm choosing it. So absolutely, like, I do agree. I love the 80-20 rule because it kind of gives us some leeway. But again, if your doctor says you need to not like obviously follow what works for you, but it's more just being more gentle with ourselves. And I feel like you and I both come from that place of where we were more rigid and now we're more gentle. And I love to hear that you're experiencing the same thing because I feel it too.
Yeah, I mean, I've been, you know, observing people and watching habits here. And I think this is something that has always stuck with me is when you're happy and you're social and you are enjoying your life, there is something metabolically that also just
100%.
supports you. You know, I think when we're super stressed and we feel guilty and we feel like rush, 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 I mean, you know, then we're talking hormone issues. And I know for a fact when I'm super stressed out and I feel my cortisol levels going up, it affects everything. And I can see it in my skin. I can feel it in my, you know, just I feel sluggish and, you know, maybe this is TMI, but I don't eliminate the way I normally do when everything is flowing properly, which is an important part of our
Yeah.
overall health.
I'm a
Um,
nutritionist, like bathroom talk is like second nature. So yeah, that's,
yeah,
not
yeah.
not TMI
So
on our end. But
you know that when you're thriving
yeah.
and all cylinders are where they're supposed to be.
Yep.
You think better, you feel better, you
Yep.
look better, you are better to yourself and to other people.
Yep.
And in this season of my life, I'm all about it. You know, I
For
am not,
sure.
I mean, and I'll be honest, having a great physique, sure, it's nice, but what's more important is feeling good about myself. And I think for all of us in this time, being more forgiving and prioritizing like just being happy, but also like knowing that all those inputs will make you happy is a great place to be.
I love that. And, for me, coming from my background, I always feel it comes down to making decisions and what the decision is right, what decision is right for you, right? And then that's the key thing. So if you eat something and you don't feel good eating it, then don't eat it, So, and if you eat something and you're like, okay, I'm making the decision to do it because right now it's gonna make me happy, then do that. Do what works for you. Again, education, right? And
Yeah.
knowing what works for our body and knowing what doesn't. You mentioned before about making sure you eat enough, and that's something that I talk about a lot as well because many of us, and I always say if I can have like a quarter for every time someone was like, I'm not eating a lot and I'm still gaining weight. So I feel like this is
Mm,
a message that's really important for us midlife ladies because, and for us women in menopause and perimenopause, is because many of us, because more than 50% of us gain weight in this phase of life, according to our published research, we know, we know when it comes to nutrition, and there's in my book, it'll be out in May of 2026. I actually counted 17 different reasons that we gain weight in perimenopause and menopause. 17, which by the way, like the majority of them are out of our control. So
mm,
it's something that I hear often, but it's like many of us are not eating enough and we're
yeah.
cutting our calories or we're told to eat less, exercise more. Can you talk a little bit about making sure we eat enough?
Yeah. This is so important because what ends up happening is if we restrict our calories severely, our bodies are really smart and they just, our body wants to keep us alive. And so it will adjust our metabolic needs accordingly, which means your metabolism will slow down. And instead of firing, like a hot oven, it will just slow to a simmer. And we don't want to simmer. We want to stay on fire. So you got to stoke the fire with food. And that's why I really love eating frequently throughout the day, several smaller meals, easier to digest, keeps your body's fire stoked. And when you think in macronutrient terms and you really know what you need. I created a meal prep app. And what is great about it is you put in your own inputs. So you put in your age, your activity level, you put in your weight and what your goal weight is, and it gives you a macronutrient plan with my recipes in it so you know what you should be getting. I think a lot of people just kind of stab at it and shoot in the dark, but truthfully don't really know how many grams of protein they should be getting or how many grams of carbohydrates. We need carbs. This whole idea that we don't need
Yeah.
carbohydrates is really unsettling to me, and it's propaganda I'd like to just kind of put to bed. We need carbohydrates in order to build muscle. So it's important that we get all the macronutrients and we don't leave anything out.
The formula that we came up with for our book in terms of protein is, and again, this takes out, like, this is just the starting point, and then you have to add on based on your activity level, like you said, your fitness level, your height, like all the different things that come into play. Was if you're under 140 pounds, then aim for 20 to 25 grams of protein per meal. And if you're over 104, if you're 140 pounds and over, aim for 25 to 30 grams per meal and then adjust from there. And we did it based on so many different calculations. I wrote the book with a friend of mine who's a nutritionist, and we went through the research, we went through what experts were saying, and that's what we came up with. And then, which is like a starting point, right? And I absolutely agree with you when it comes to the carbohydrates. It's just the type of carbohydrates, right? Again, it comes down to the decisions that we're making, the education, not the deprivation. So, and I think it's a very important point to make.
Yeah,
So thank you.
I think with that, what your goals might be too. I think a lot of I really like to think about the calories last and think more about the
100%.
quality of the food and the kind of like how I'm eating it. So like say for example it's breakfast time and you want to try and get your morning started off on the right fork. What I would say is make sure that that's where you really think protein first.
Yeah.
So am I getting maybe some good yogurt, or am I getting some eggs in, or am I doing maybe like some oatmeal with a scoop of protein powder or protein pancakes, or like think protein
Protein.
first in
Yeah.
the morning instead
Totally
of
agree.
just grabbing something to eat. Because if you do that, then you set yourself up the right way for the rest of the day, because your taste buds, you've kind of given your body that. And I write about this in my book too, is your taste buds know, like if you're giving your body too much sugar or too much salt in the morning, it's going to crave that the rest of the day, right? But if you're getting enough protein, which is umami, then your body's going to want that more and more and more. So conditioning yourself really like to crave properly is important too. Because I'll hear from a lot of women, especially, like, I don't really crave protein in the morning. I want more of like a carb. Well, you can still have carbs, but have the protein with it.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean those are mutually exclusive. You just want to make sure you get enough protein to start your day so that you set yourself up for the right rhythm.
100% protein. Exactly. It's so important for us. And protein wakes up the brain. It's important for our muscles and our bones. It helps with blood sugar regulation. Like it's important for so many different things. So
Yeah.
I definitely agree. You were talking about skin before. Like you mentioned, you kind of alluded to skin. Talk a little bit about your skin and how you find it now. Like what are you doing for your skin? Because you have beautiful skin. Like, so
Thank
what are
you.
you doing to take care of your skin?
So this is like such a hot button right now, right? I feel like for women, obviously our outward appearance is, there's so many people that are from different camps, like they will do all the treatments and they'll do all the, injections and whatever. And I'm not here to tell you that any of that is right or wrong, but what I will say is there are a few fundamental things that everybody should be doing. Number one, hydration. I mean,
Mm, yes.
it sounds so simple, but water with electrolytes are really my jam. I think that has made a big difference because I just feel like my cells drink it in and immediately I can see everything plump up, especially as the weather is warm right now. You want to make sure you're getting at least half your body weight in
Weight in
ounces. I would
ounces.
say
Ah,
more
I
if
love
you're
that.
active.
I have the
Yeah.
same philosophy, half your body weight in ounces. That's great. And yeah, more
Yeah.
when it's hotter, of course, you have to adjust accordingly.
And I really do like getting my electrolytes in. So I'll do electrolytes in the morning, helps replenish, kind of just it gets my fluids going. I feel better, I feel more energetic. I don't do pre-workout because the caffeine, that excessive caffeine just makes me crazy. But if I do electrolytes, then I feel much better. You can do a pinch of mineral salt. Just do some Himalayan pink salt in your water and you will feel a difference. So that's number one.
Yeah.
Number two is vitamin C. So little did I know all these years that getting the right amount, an adequate amount of good quality vitamin C helps with collagen production. And
Mm,
collagen production is everything.
yeah.
So after the age of 35, our production starts to diminish. And one thing that I didn't share with you is in 2020, when the the wall was like crashing down on me, I also tore my ACL and my meniscus
Ooh.
and realized just how dry our connective tissue becomes when we don't get enough collagen, dietarily, because again, we're not
Yeah.
producing enough, which it's incumbent on us taking enough vitamin C. So that really, has been a big game changer for me. I take a liposomal vitamin C, which, I learned about liposomal encapsulation about a year ago, and what a game changer. It's been amazing. And what's great about it is it mimics the same kind of makeup as your cell. So being encapsulated in that lipid or fat mimics the cell wall. So it's able to absorb and uptake by the cell really efficiently. So I do that, and I use a product called Live On Labs. I also take glutathione. So glutathione
Love
is the
glutathione.
master antioxidant. I learned about glutathione many, many years ago. For a long time, there weren't really like that many effective ways to take it where it would really like absorb and uptake into your cells. But again, Live On makes a glutathione, and I take that every day. And wow, like I can actually see the difference. And it's also helped with building muscle. So all of these systems are connected and absolutely have made a big difference in my skin too, because oxidation is what is killing the cells off. So you want to keep your cells healthy and vibrant. And that's where glutathione and vitamin C is an amazing antioxidant as well. So those two combined have really been a big one for me.
It's interesting about vitamin C, I mean, and the collagen, like you were saying. I mean, vitamin C also is amazing for our immune system. Like it's good for so many different things. And many of you will
Yeah.
probably know or start taking it if you're feeling run down or your immune system is feeling a little bit more sluggish. And it's an amazing product. But yes, for our skin. And I love glutathione. I actually take glutathione, especially when I feel like there's inflammation in my body. It is the master antioxidant. So I'm a big fan of taking glutathione. I actually like to take it even with neck and acetylcysteine. So that makes a great combination as well. And I do love Live On, and they're one of our sponsors at our podcast. So I'm really
Yeah.
happy that you mentioned them. They're a great product, and their liposomal vitamin C and their glutathione I love. So I think that's awesome. Is there anything else that you want to talk about that we didn't cover today that you feel that would be valuable to our
Yeah,
listeners?
one more thing connected to skin. And I think, again, like we get tripped up sometimes just only focusing on macronutrients or micronutrients.
Yes.
Getting a
Real.
variety,
Yes.
my motto is eat the rainbow.
Yeah.
I've been saying it for 15 years now, eat the rainbow.
Yeah.
And there really is a reason why eating fruits and vegetables from all the colors of the rainbow makes such a big difference. I mean, there are so many phytonutrients in plant foods like that we haven't even identified all of them, and they make a difference. And you will feel that difference not only physically but outwardly, because you're feeding your body at the cellular level. And
Totally.
I can't really understate how important that is. And as a chef, this is what makes food delicious, is eating seasonally, finding unique ingredients that kind of make your dish stand out. And we eat with our eyes first. So colorful food is not only like good for you, it's enticing. It makes you want to enjoy. And like right now, we have stone
Yeah.
fruit in season. So good. I love apricots and plums and nectarines. I love to grill nectarines and peaches. And that's so yummy with like a scoop of coconut whipped cream, like, and a little bit
Yum.
of date drizzle and some crushed pistachios. That's like an easy dessert. That's so good. I love all the microgreens that are out there, and I grow microgreens.
Yeah.
So, get your radish and your arugula and your broccoli. Those have actually far more concentrated nutrients than the fully mature greens. So even though they are ready to eat oftentimes in 5 days, 5 days to 2 weeks, they're actually more nutrient dense than the full mature, like broccoli or arugula, for example. So load up on microgreens. Those are really great to sprinkle onto your salads and your dishes to make them look fancy. And have fun with your sauces, get, like, I see a lot of people using beets, for example. They'll throw beets into hummus or as a sauce. That beautiful, vibrant red just makes your dish pop. So have fun with color. And I think, obviously we get so much hydration from fruits and vegetables too. Watermelon right now in season, like throw some of that in the blender with some sparkling water and some mint. Perfect drink.
I love how your chef is coming out and like you're talking and even you're saying, because I'm like the most boring, like I am like when it comes to creativity with cooking, like I look to you or someone to like, I look to someone like you're like, and you're like, just add this and add that. And I'm like, oh, it sounds so good. But I think it's awesome that you're giving that advice. And by the way, I totally agree with the micronutrients. Absolutely. Because most of us are also deficient in our minerals and those micronutrients. So it's important that we do get it. And eating the rainbow is great advice. So thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah. Makes food fun again.
Yes. So how can people find out about you if they wanted to learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, chefmareya.com. So chef and then Mareya. That's where you can kind of find everything. I've got my programs there. I've got great free recipes, lots of content. I also have a podcast called The Real Dish where I talk about food and health and wellness, and you can
Awesome.
check that out on anywhere you stream. And on Instagram at Chef Mareya is where I hang out mostly on social media.
I love it. Thank you so much for doing this today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to see you again.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Chef Mareya. If you want to try out Live On Labs vitamin C or their glutathione, you can go to their website, which is liveonlabs.com. So it's LIVON labs, LABS.com. And what they're doing for our listeners, I think it's pretty awesome. They are giving you a free box, a free carton of their B complex plus vitamins when you order a carton of their lipospheric vitamin C. So it's a $56 value that you're getting, that you're saving by buying their vitamin C. So you get to try 2 of their products, which I think is great. So all you do is you add both products to the cart and you use the code Morphus, MORPHUS at the checkout, and it'll automatically do it for you. So thank you for spending the last little bit with me. I know there's a lot you could be doing, but instead you chose to spend your time with me. And for that, I am grateful. I'll see you at the next interview.